As I drove down the desolate road in rural Pennsylvania, surrounded by dense forest, I couldn't ignore the pressing need to relieve myself. The trees seemed to close in on either side of the road, casting eerie shadows that danced in the fading light of dusk. I finally decided to pull over. Stepping out onto the gravel shoulder, a chilling silence enveloped me. The only sound was the faint rustling of leaves in the breeze. I hurriedly finished my business, but as I zipped up, a prickling sensation crawled up my spine. It felt like someone, or something, was watching me. My gaze darted around the overgrown surroundings, searching for any movement. Nothing. Just the ominous stillness of the forest. A sense of unease gnawed at me, urging me to retreat to the safety of my car. With quickened steps, I made my way back, trying to appear calm despite the growing knot of fear in my stomach. Every snap of twigs underfoot seemed unnaturally loud, echoing in the unsettling quiet. Reaching my car, I fumbled with the keys, heart pounding. I glanced back once more before hastily sliding into the driver's seat, slamming the door shut behind me. Only then did I allow myself a shaky breath, hands trembling on the steering wheel. I started the engine, casting one last glance at the darkening forest before pulling away. As the road stretched out before me, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had narrowly escaped something lurking in the shadows, something not quite human. Continuing down the deserted road as twilight deepened, I couldn't shake the unease from earlier. The incident at the roadside lingered in my mind like a stubborn shadow. The forest seemed to press in closer, its edges merging into darkness. Glancing in the rearview mirror, I froze. There, in the fading light, I caught a glimpse of a figure. It stood at the edge of the forest, partially hidden among the trees. My heart raced as I strained to make out its features. What I saw sent a chill down my spine. The figure had an unnaturally wide grin that stretched across its face, revealing teeth that glinted in the dimming light. Its skin was a sickly yellow hue, contrasting sharply against the deepening shadows of the forest. I blinked, hoping it was a trick of the failing light or my overactive imagination. But when I looked again, it was still there, its gaze fixed on me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. The creature moved in a way that defied natural motion, almost like a predator sizing up its prey. Every instinct screamed at me to flee, but fear rooted me to the spot. I tried to rationalize what I was seeing, perhaps exhaustion playing tricks on my mind, but deep down, I knew this was real. With trembling hands, I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my mind racing. Should I drive away? Confront it? My thoughts scattered like leaves in the wind, unable to settle on a course of action. As if sensing my hesitation, the creature took a slow step forward, its grin widening impossibly. That was all I needed to snap out of my paralysis. Without another moment's hesitation, I slammed my foot on the gas pedal, the engine roaring to life. The road ahead blurred as I sped away, heart pounding in my chest. Behind me, I glimpsed the creature standing motionless at the edge of the forest, its unsettling smile etched into my memory. I didn't stop until I reached the safety of a well-lit gas station miles away, where I finally allowed myself to breathe. But even as I tried to convince myself it was over, I couldn't shake the feeling that the creature was still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting. Night descended like a heavy shroud as I continued to cautiously navigate the winding road. The events of earlier haunted me, refusing to fade with the fading light. The forest seemed denser now, its silence oppressive. Then it began. Faint at first, like whispers carried on the wind, strange sounds, rustlings, as if something moved just beyond the reach of my headlights. I gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white, eyes darting to every shadow that seemed to shift. Fear gripped me anew as realization dawned. The creature was still with me, stalking in the darkness. Panic surged, cold and visceral, as I imagined its twisted grin haunting every turn of the road. The paranoia grew with each passing moment. Every creak of the car, every rustle of leaves under my tires sent my heart racing. I dared not stop, not even to catch my breath, knowing that any pause could give the creature an opportunity. My foot pressed harder on the accelerator, the engine straining to keep pace with my racing thoughts. Sweat trickled down my temples, mingling with the cold fear that gripped me. The road stretched endlessly ahead, each mile feeling like an eternity. I stole glances in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see the creature's ghastly form looming closer. Each time, relief flooded me when I found nothing but the empty road behind. But just as quickly, the sounds intensified. A branch snapping, a low growl carried on the wind. The creature was relentless, its presence a suffocating weight on my chest. Desperation clawed at me, urging me to find sanctuary, to escape this nightmare. I pushed the car to its limits, weaving through the darkness with a singular focus: survival. My mind raced with unanswered questions. What did it want? Why me? But there was no time for answers, only the urgent need to flee. The minutes stretched into hours as I drove, each second filled with dread. And though I eventually reached the safety of a town, the memory of that night, of the creature's haunting presence, would forever linger, a shadow in the recesses of my mind. I pulled into the abandoned gas station, my heart pounding with a mixture of relief and dread. The flickering fluorescent lights overhead cast eerie shadows across the cracked pavement and rusted pumps. It seemed like a sanctuary amidst the oppressive darkness outside. I was wrong. As I scanned the surroundings, a movement caught my eye, a flicker of movement near the edge of the station. My breath caught in my throat as I saw it. The creature, emerging from the shadows like a nightmare given form. Its presence was suffocating, filling the air with a palpable malevolence. The wide grin stretched across its face seemed to mock my desperation. Its eyes, dark and gleaming with malice, locked onto mine with an intensity that froze me in place. Fear surged anew, primal and consuming. Panic gripped me as I realized there was no escape, no place left to run. The creature blocked the path to my car, cutting off any hope of retreat. I backed away slowly, every step echoing loudly in the silence. My mind raced, searching frantically for any way out of this nightmare. Adrenaline surged through me, heightening my senses to a painful clarity. With trembling hands, I groped for anything that could be used as a weapon. My fingers closed around a rusted pipe discarded near the pumps. It was a feeble defense against whatever this thing was, but it was all I had. The creature advanced, its movements unnaturally fluid, like a predator toying with its prey. I held my ground, heart thundering in my chest, muscles tensed for a futile fight. Then, in a burst of desperate resolve, I lunged for the station's doorway, praying it would provide some fleeting sanctuary. The creature's laughter, a haunting, guttural sound, echoed behind me as I sprinted into the darkness of the station's interior. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The pounding of my feet against the concrete floor drowned out everything else. The creature's mocking laughter, the thudding of my own heart. I stumbled into a back room, slamming the door shut behind me with shaking hands. The dim light filtering through grimy windows offered little comfort, but it was enough to confirm one thing: I had escaped, for now. As I sank to the floor, gasping for breath, the realization sunk in. I had survived another encounter with the creature, but its haunting presence would continue to haunt my nightmares for nights to come. And as I huddled in that forsaken room, surrounded by dust and darkness, I knew one thing for certain: this was far from over. The creature still lurked out there, waiting in the shadows, a relentless predator in a world where nightmares come to life. The dark forest blurred around me as I fled, adrenaline pumping through my veins. Branches whipped at my face and snagged at my clothes, but I dared not slow down. Fear fueled my every step, driving me deeper into the labyrinth of shadows and moonlit clearings. Behind me, the creature pursued with an unearthly speed and determination that defied logic. Its presence was a looming terror, a relentless predator that seemed to anticipate my every move. Panic gripped me, threatening to overwhelm rational thought. Moonlight filtered through the dense canopy above, casting eerie silhouettes and shifting shadows that seemed to dance with malevolent intent. I stumbled over roots and fallen branches, each noise magnified in the stillness of the night. My lungs burned with exertion, but I couldn't afford to stop. Every instinct screamed at me to find refuge, to escape the relentless pursuit that echoed through the forest. Then, through the haze of fear and exhaustion, I spotted it, a dilapidated cabin nestled amidst the trees. Hope surged within me as I sprinted towards it, desperation lending me strength. The door creaked open under my trembling hand, revealing a dim interior cloaked in shadows. I slipped inside, heart hammering in my chest, and closed the door with a muffled thud. For a moment all was quiet. I strained to hear any sign of the creature outside, but the only sound was the pounding of my own heart and the raggedness of my breath. Time stretched out, agonizingly slow, as I waited in the oppressive silence. Every creak and whisper of the old cabin seemed amplified, heightening my unease. Minutes ticked by like hours, and just as I began to hope that I had evaded the creature, a chilling realization washed over me. The silence outside was no longer empty. A soft rustling, barely audible, stirred from the depths of the forest. It was followed by another, closer this time, accompanied by a low, guttural growl that sent shivers down my spine. The creature had found me. I pressed myself further into the shadows of the cabin, heart pounding in my ears. Fear clawed at my throat, threatening to choke me as I waited, praying that the creature would pass by. But as the moments stretched on, the sounds outside grew louder, closer. I held my breath, eyes wide with terror, as the inevitable approached. And then, with a sudden crash, the door burst open. Darkness enveloped me as the creature loomed in the doorway, its twisted grin illuminated by the pale moonlight. Its eyes locked onto mine with a chilling intensity, filled with a hunger that sent ice through my veins. I had nowhere left to run. Inside the musty cabin, my heart continued its frantic rhythm, each beat a reminder of the peril outside. The air was thick with dust and decay, the walls sagging with age and neglect. Moonlight filtered through cracks in the roof, casting jagged shadows across the worn floorboards. As I caught my breath, my gaze fell upon the cabin's meager furnishings. A rickety table cluttered with forgotten belongings, a rusted stove in the corner, and shelves lined with dusty books and peculiar artifacts. Amongst these artifacts, I found clues, symbols etched into weathered tomes, faded sketches depicting creatures akin to the one that hunted me. Local legends whispered of spirits and guardians, protectors of the forest bound by ancient pacts and forgotten rituals. Fear began to yield to grim resolve as pieces of the puzzle fell into place. The creature outside was no mere apparition, but a manifestation of something older, darker, a guardian of the forest, twisted by time and malevolence. I studied the artifacts with growing unease, piecing together a plan born of necessity. Improvised weapons, makeshift barriers, anything that might buy me precious moments against the creature's relentless pursuit. Outside, the night held its breath, waiting for my next move. With each passing minute, the weight of the cabin's isolation pressed down on me, a sanctuary tinged with the knowledge of impending danger. I fortified the cabin as best I could, dragging furniture to block windows and reinforce doors. Every sound outside, the rustle of leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, sent a shiver down my spine, a reminder that the creature waited, patient and predatory. As dawn approached, casting a faint glow through the cabin's cracks, I huddled near the makeshift defenses, weary but alert. The night had been a harrowing journey into darkness, but it had also brought clarity, a glimpse into a world where folklore and fear intersected. With the rising sun came a renewed determination. Armed with newfound knowledge and a fragile sense of hope, I prepared for the inevitable confrontation ahead. Outside, the forest stirred with the first whispers of morning, and as I stood on the threshold of the unknown, I knew that whatever awaited me beyond the cabin's walls, I would face it with the resolve of one who had glimpsed the shadows lurking beneath the surface of the world. Night fell once more, cloaking the forest in a dense, swirling fog. The moon hung low in the sky, casting feeble beams that barely pierced the mist. Inside the cabin, I waited with bated breath, every sense attuned to the ominous silence outside. The creature's presence loomed like a specter in the darkness, its malevolent aura palpable even through the cabin walls. I gripped my makeshift weapon, a jagged piece of broken chair leg, tighter, the weight of impending battle settling heavy on my shoulders. And then it came. The door rattled with a sudden force, followed by a low, guttural growl that reverberated through the cabin. My heart leaped into my throat as the creature's shadow darkened the threshold, its outline obscured by the fog. With a primal roar, it lunged at me, claws slashing through the air with lethal intent. Adrenaline surged, and I met its assault with desperate ferocity. The cabin erupted into chaos, a whirlwind of frenzied movements, flashes of fangs and claws illuminated by fleeting moonlight. I swung my weapon with desperate precision, aiming for any vulnerable spot I could find. The creature retaliated with equal savagery, its strength fueled by an ancient rage that defied reason. Pain seared through me as its claws grazed my side, leaving deep, ragged wounds that burned with each breath. But I fought on, driven by sheer determination and the primal instinct to survive. Blood mingled with sweat, adrenaline drowning out the throbbing ache of my injuries. The cabin became a battleground, a microcosm of struggle against an unseen darkness that threatened to consume us both. In a desperate gambit, I managed to land a solid blow, driving the jagged weapon into the creature's side. A guttural howl of pain pierced the air, mingling with my own ragged breaths. For a fleeting moment, victory seemed within reach, but the creature was relentless. With a final surge of strength, it slammed me against the cabin wall, its grip like iron around my throat. Darkness threatened to engulf me as I struggled against its crushing weight. In a desperate bid for survival, I lashed out with whatever strength remained, driving the makeshift weapon into its chest with all the force I could muster. The creature recoiled, a primal shriek echoing through the night as it staggered back, wounded and disoriented. Gasping for breath, I collapsed to the floor, pain radiating through every fiber of my being. The cabin spun around me, a surreal blur of moonlit shadows and shattered remnants of the battle. Victory had come at a cost, bloodied, battered, but alive. Outside, the fog began to dissipate, revealing the first tentative rays of dawn. The forest held its breath, as if mourning the violence that had unfolded within its depths. As I lay there, battered but defiant, I knew that the scars, both physical and emotional, would linger long after the wounds had healed. The creature had been defeated, but its presence would forever haunt my dreams, a reminder of the darkness that lurked beneath the surface of the world. And yet, amidst the wreckage of the night, a fragile sense of triumph blossomed. I had faced the abyss and emerged bruised but unbroken, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit against the darkest of adversaries. As dawn broke over the quiet forest, its golden rays filtering through the lingering mist, I limped out of the cabin, battered but alive. Every step sent a jolt of pain through my weary body, a stark reminder of the night's harrowing ordeal. Mixed emotions flooded my mind, relief mingled with trauma, as I reflected on the horrors I had endured. The wounds, both physical and emotional, throbbed with a persistent ache, each breath a reminder of the fragile line between survival and despair. The sunrise painted the sky in hues of pink and gold, a stark contrast to the darkness that had enveloped the forest just hours before. It symbolized a new beginning, a hesitant promise of healing and renewal amidst the aftermath of chaos. I surveyed the clearing around the cabin, shadows retreating with the advancing light. The forest seemed quieter now, as if holding its breath in the wake of the violence that had unfolded within its depths. With a weary determination, I made a decision. I needed to warn others, to seek help before the creature could strike again. Every instinct screamed at me to flee, to put as much distance between myself and the forest as possible. But I knew that the threat remained, lurking in the shadows, waiting for its next opportunity. The creature had been wounded, but I had no illusions about its resilience or its relentless pursuit. Gathering what little strength remained, I turned away from the cabin, each step a testament to my resilience in the face of unimaginable terror. The road ahead was uncertain, fraught with the lingering echoes of the night's horrors. As I ventured back into the world beyond the forest, I carried with me the scars of battle and the weight of newfound knowledge. The creature had been real, a manifestation of ancient fears and forgotten legends, but so too was my resolve to confront the darkness that threatened to consume me. And as I disappeared into the distance, a survivor forged in the crucible of fear and courage, I knew that the journey was far from over. The scars would heal, the nightmares would fade, but the memory of that fateful night would forever linger, a testament to the fragile strength of the human spirit against the unknown. But for now, in the quiet dawn of a new day, I took solace in the simple act of moving forward, one painful step at a time, towards a future where shadows held no sway over my restless heart.